and we'd be out for maybe a month or two. You were looking forward to the land, you know.
Yeah.
And it helped. It was a good way to relax us.
Did you ever encounter any storms or rough seas?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Quite often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And aside from the spaghetti incident, was it common for the sailors to get seasick and throw up?
Some was couldn't get over it.
Yeah.
And they, of course, when they did get to land, that was it for them. They didn't have to go to sea anymore. But I never did. It didn't bother me. I was fortunate.
Yeah.
That part didn't bother. But you know, some heavy duty storms in that.
So let's remember when you pulled into Pearl. Did was the Arizona and Oklahoma, were they still in harbor? Well, obviously the Arizona is, because it still is.
They were still there, but I didn't notice that so much.
Yeah.
We pulled in there several times after being out to sea. But they had it all pretty well put together. Of course, that one ship is still there, you know.
Yeah.
It was just like, it was just a big island, and nothing much more there.
Yeah.
They had like Waikiki Beach. It's a beautiful beach. But it wasn't beautiful then because it's full of barbed wire.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But
have you been back since?
yes, several times.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Does it stir any memories as you being a kid? Does it bring back memories at all?
No, because it's so different now, you know, than when I was there. As I say, when I was there, they had fixed it up to entertain sailors while they're all off the ship and let them get used to the land a little more. So
sure.
But now it's real nice.
Do you remember your paycheck? How much were you paid?
Oh, no, not too much. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I became my top what do you call them?
Ranking?
What?
Rank? Or
well,
salary?
Yeah. I started out, you know, as a seaman or something, I think. And then I got up to a machinist mate second class. That's as high as I got. And, but no, the money wasn't too much.
What'd you do with your money? Did you send it back home?
Yes. That's a good question. What did I do with that? I guess I did. Yeah. I didn't keep it on the ship.
Well, there wasn't a lot to spend money on the ship, I suppose. So this brings up a question. I've only been on cruise ships, and they have places to spend money. I can't remember the name. Did the ship have a store for you to buy things?
Oh, yes.
Or was everything free?
They did.
PX.
Yeah.
The PX, yeah.
They did. What the hell are they called?
The PX.
What?
The PX.
Yeah, well, it wasn't called that aboard ship. I forget the name of it. But you could buy, toothpaste, or you could buy things like that. Aspirin, or what else did they buy there?
Gum or candy?
Candy? I believe, yeah. I think he could. But I don't remember exactly buying candy.
Yeah, it's okay.
Cigarettes.
What about, smokes? You used to get rations, you used to get packages and things. They used to give away cigarettes.
Smoking lamp is lit.
Right.
In the board ship underway, that's the only time you smoke. Smoking lamp was lit. I learned to smoke.
Oh, yeah. So you never smoked in Alsea?
What?
You never smoked until you went to the Navy?
Well, yeah, I puffed on it, you know.
Yeah.
something like that. I'd puff on it to see what it was like. But that was what I learned to smoke.
Did you feel any peer pressure because you were a small town kid to do what the other guys were doing?
No, that didn't bother me.
Yeah.
No.
No peer pressure, I
No.
guess. Yeah.
And what bothered me, what didn't bother me, what I guess startled me, I never thought about the Civil War
Yeah.
at all, of course. And here these guys were still talking about the Civil War. And I really thought about that. And I'd argue with them, and we'd fight that war over verbally. And but it made me realize just how important that was for Lincoln to make that. When you stop to think about it, he's probably one of the few people, the Northerners wanted to stay in the North, Southerners stay in the South. Well, I often wondered later, after that experience I had, if he hadn't have made what was that called?
Emancipation
Emancipation
Proclamation. Yeah.
If he hadn't have done that,
Yeah.
would we have two countries here between the oceans or not?
Yeah. Well, I think my opinion is that the North won because they had better ammunition, they had more
people.
manufacturing,
Yeah.
they had the ability, and that's my opinion on World War II as well, because we were able to build and build, we had the resources.
Yeah, the North, that's why they won the war.
Right.
We were better prepared than the South.
Right.
Oh, yes.
Right.
Yeah. But you got to admit that the South put up a damn good fight.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. I was surprised that, and I'm reading about it and what I learned from my own experience in World War II. We got that Civil War that was done.
Do you think that it was the problem maybe with the guys who were from the South? Was it pride? Was it ignorance or lack of education? Or did you?
Oh, no, the way they talked, they wanted the South, where they lived, wanted it as a country by itself.
Right, right.
And even though, of course, they didn't win the Civil War, but they got beat there, but they still wanted it by themselves.
Right.
They didn't want to go north, and they didn't want the Northerners to come down there. And that's what I learned when I first went aboard. I had no idea
Right.
that would still be a problem. Civil War.
So, do you remember when you you went from San Francisco to Pearl? Where did you leave next? You went from Pearl out to sea.
That's a good question. Went to little small islands along the way. When the war ended, we were at we were at one of the closest islands to Japan. That's where we were.
Okinawa?
Okinawa? I guess it was Okinawa.
That'd be my guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a large
I think
invasion.
it was.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so our job was to escort a hospital ship on into where the second bomb was dropped. Where what's that?
Nagasaki?
Nagasaki.
Yeah.
And that was an interesting trip because we weren't sure that to get that ship into, and they wanted it, of course, docked at the beach to get to that beach. We had to go through a narrow opening all the way into this where there was a big water, lots of water.
Harbor?
What?
The harbor?
Harbor.
Yeah.
But to get there, we had to go through a narrow trail or whatever you call it. And so, just before we started through, word was passed. Anybody wants to handle a machine gun. They won't put machine gunners on the main deck because that we were so close to the land that we could be picked off by him.
Yeah.
Anyway, and I enjoyed that. I went up and hell, I wanted to handle that machine gun, and then we got. We damn near stepped on the beach from the. Here's a big ship.
Yeah.
That's a big ship.
Yeah.
You could damn near step on the beach. We're that close. But then as we went up that narrow inlet, or whatever you want to call it, you could see that they had it pretty tough. The Japanese did.
Can I assume they had mines floating in?
Well, no, yeah, I don't know how they handle it. I imagine we sent somebody, these miners or whatever, these ships, to locate that before we went in.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I'm sure they did, but we had no problem there. But what was interesting to me was we had heard that these prisoners of war, the Japanese prisoners, or the Japanese who took the prisoners, or all during the war, that our men who were there were nothing but frail. They'd lost a lot of weight and so forth and wonderful. But by the time we got that hospital ship there, it was quite a while. And so when they brought these, and our job was, once we got it there, was to go over and kind of greet these prisoners to come into the hospital ship. And when they come in, I remember I was watching them, and some of them were in good shape, these prisoners, you know. And I said to one of them, I said, "You surprised us." I said, "We've heard about that you were practically dead from the lack of food." And he says, "Well, when the war ended," he says that our planes came over and dropped plenty of food. So he says, "We've done nothing but eat."
Yeah.
That's the way he explained it to me.
So your talk of healthcare or this hospital ship makes me question. So you saw injuries on the Wichita, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You came under fire.
Yes.
Many times. Do you still remember the first time maybe you saw blood or death or anything of that nature?
Oh, yeah. Well, I remember the, what do we call it? The sick bay or whatever.
Yeah.
And when I was, as I say, I was in the machine game, but in the refrigeration, ice machines, and all. Of course, that sick bay that we had there, it was air conditioned. And so I knew all the people there, you know. And
that was a good job to have in the Pacific.
that's right. And so I was pretty well familiar with, because I had a operation on it.
Looks like your
appendectomy.
Appendectomy.
Your appendix.
Yeah,
Yes.
appendicitis.
Yeah. On the Wichita.
Yeah. On the Wichita. I was there.
Do you remember do you remember that clearly?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it at? It was not during a battle, I presume. It was.
No, it wasn't. It was just just to happen, and
Yep.
they operated on me.
Do you remember how much downtime they allowed you?
No, I don't remember.
The surgery.
It went pretty fast.
Yeah.
I wasn't down to sick bay very long.
Yeah. Surgery today versus surgery then.
Oh yeah.
Much different. You'd
Yeah,
have
it
to
was
have
bad.
open belly.
But they had
time.
that fixed pretty well.
Yeah.
What was it they talked about?
And you had no nurses on board?
No.
Yeah.
No, they were either, we had doctors, and I guess, and then we all, what is it, the guys that, what's their?
Orderly?
Orderlies or whatever.
Medics.
That help the doctors, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
We but that was a good place. That was well taken care of, and we did our best to keep it that way. That was our job, to keep the air conditioning going on.
Do you remember how many guys did that kind of work that you did? Was there more than
Oh,
one?
yes.
Yeah.
There was probably 3 or 4 of us, that's all.
Yeah.
That took care of the ice machine game.
Right, right. So do you remember the first time you came under fire? Or do you remember any particular situations?
Yes, let's see.
You had many things to worry about.
Well, the things that I remember the first, what do you call that, where airplane fights airplanes.
Dogfight.
Dogfight?
Yeah.
I saw just one, and I'm very disappointed. It was just 2 planes, Jap plane. Well, we'd had one of those. Back then, when we got over there, it was not ship to ship, it was ship to airplane. And the way we would handle that, we just threw up a hell of a lot of guns, you know.
Flak.
And hopefully the damn plane would fly into it. And but this time we'd have that big battle, or whatever you want to call it, and things were quieted down. But these 2 planes were left up there, just 2, American plane and a Japanese plane, and they were dueling. And what it was easy to see right away that the Jap plane was much more slower, but the, what do you call it, the what's that called?
Is more maneuverable.
Much more maneuverable.
Yeah.
And so what our plane would come home and shoot at him, you know, and then he'd fly on past all the way to about Chicago before he turned around and come back, and he would go again. And they both ran out of ammunition, evidently, because when I guess they were out of it, the Jap went one way. Right? That was the only one-on-one I ever saw.
Really?
I'm very disappointed in the way it turned out.
How about submarine warfare? Were you?
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
That's a story I've got. What they called it, what the hell did they call that? They were concerned quite. See, we were a bunch of ships. We traveled that way. And they were pretty sure there were some Japanese submarines around close. And so what they did was, at night, we all had certain places to go, and the idea was if they hit the ship with a torpedo at night, they wanted to make damn sure where that happened aboard the ship, and so they could get enough crew to start mending it before it of course starts sinking. Yeah. Anyway, my job was in a sleeping department where what do you call it?
The bunks.
Bunks.
Yeah.
And they were 3 bunks high. And so we went into this at the same time early every morning, maybe about 3 or 4 o'clock of a morning. We'd all go to our particular places. And my job was in this bunk room. Well, about the 2nd or 3rd time, second or third day, that was, these are 3 bunks high. That was too much for me. I just slipped into that 3rd bunk, or that 2nd bunk, the middle bunk, which was easy to get into.
Yeah.
And I didn't go to sleep, but I just kind of laid there, you know. And my job, I had earphones on, was if we got hit in the area to report where the hit was and how much of a problem it was. Anyway, I just got into that. I was laying there, and of course it was all very dark. No lights are on. And here comes the officer checking. And I heard him come through when he come through the door. The doors are all locked, you know. And but so I guess he got through and locked his door, and I guess he was throwing his light around, and that's when I guess I woke up and got out of that bunk. Anyway,
You got lucky.
by the time he got to me, he says, "Sailor, I saw you get out of that bunk. And you know what that means? Is sleep at your station is what's it called? Offense? I forget. Damn, it's a long time." But I said, "Well, I wasn't asleep." He says, "Oh, I thought I saw you get out of that bunk. You had to be asleep." "No, I wasn't," I said. I said, "My job is, sir, is to," I call him sir, I says, "is to report damage in the area." And I said, I thought if I had the protection of the bunks above and below me, that would help me. So, because I said, if we're hit in this area, I said I'd probably be thrown against the wall or I forget what I told him. And I said I couldn't make my job right. I couldn't report them. So that's why I said I wasn't asleep at that middle bunk, but I used it as for protection. And while I was telling him my story, now he was a fairly young guy, thank goodness, and he's an officer, of course. I could hear him kind of cough. He was laughing, so I was but he didn't want me to know he was laughing. and he didn't say anything when I finished my story. He kept laughing, kept kind of like that. But then by the time he got over to the door,